brave a little bit of bad weather and come back. I really do appreciate it, and I guess I would ask that if you have questions in your mind that are preventing you from supporting the levy, for it, I hope that when we leave here tonight, you'll ask those questions. I hope that when you leave here tonight, that you'll get the answers that you're looking for. That is our goal overall. We're at a crisis point here, as Dr. Jones and the others that will speak tonight will tell you. We need your support, and part of that is you being here tonight. So thanks again. With that, we'll start with Dr. Jones to give you an overview of what's going on, and we have a couple other people that are going to speak, and we'll open it up to questions and discussion. So,
okay, thanks very much. I appreciate that. I am going to.
It's okay. I'm going to leave the door open. That's right. Okay.
I'm going to pass around. You guys have seen this. I know many of you have seen this before, but I got one.
Been there, done that. Sure.
Okay.
Is this revised?
Not yet.
Okay.
Work on the revision. Many of you have seen this handout, and we like to try to start these conversations with this, because I really believe that this kind of tells the story of what we have been looking at the last 5 years. What you have in front of you are the reductions that the school district has implemented, because we've seen this financial issue coming the last 5 years. And our income has been pretty much flatlined, certainly locally. And just like any household, your expenses are going up like that. And those lines cross at some point. And so the only way we've been able to keep those lines from crossing is the document that you have in front of you. And so just to kind of give you an anchor as you look at this, if you look at eliminated positions 06-07, you see assistant superintendent. Mr. Frisbee, Dennis Frisbee, was the assistant superintendent 3 weeks before I got here. He retired on December 31st of 05, and that position was not replaced. I know Mr. Frisbee, fine man, fine administrator. When I was a principal at Talmadge, I had both of his kids in school, wonderful family, good man, a lot of good work here. You see cost savings in that left-hand column. That was his salary and benefits, $120,000. The other column is the cumulative savings. When Mr. Frisbee retired, we did not replace that position. So what that cumulative savings column means is if we would have replaced him at that salary with no increases, that's how much we would have spent. You may call that, again, we're working on a revision for this, because as we've gotten this out, some people have said, whoa, you forgot about this, Russ, you forgot about that. And then some of these, the title of this, cumulative savings, cost avoided might be another way to say it, but that's the number. So food service was a reduction in hours for some food service folks. We go to 07-08, we see some supplemental positions were eliminated. Those are like, we eliminated an assistant football coach position, an assistant baseball coach position, an assistant ski club advisor at Lakeview, and with 66, they go on and on and on. That just impacts kids at that point, because Lakeview ski club advisor, for example, an assistant. If we have an advisor and an assistant, we can take 90 kids to ski club. So if you only have a ski club advisor, now we can only take 45, because you're looking at trying to supervise that many students. You go through 07-08, you see maintenance, 3 maintenance positions that were eliminated. Many of us drive by Riverview, for example, in the summer, and you see grass that high, and you wonder, what the heck is going on here? Well, we've got 8 maintenance folks to take care of 9 buildings plus central office, the bus garage, and we're at a skeleton crew. The big thing to think about is the reductions that we've made that are before you. Most people in the community really haven't seen a whole bunch. It's been done internally. And people have been picking up more and more work, And again, it hasn't been seen because you have that excellent rating, the buses keep going, kids are smiling, everything looks great. But internally, we've been tightening our belt, tightening our belt, tightening our belt. 08, 09, you see 9 teaching positions were eliminated. Now, one of the things that we have done that a little bit different than, I know Green and Hudson, you probably saw in the newspaper, they had 45 teaching positions are going to be going away, or 65 teaching positions are going to be going away. As I mentioned when I started, we saw this financial issue coming. So what we really looked at was our class sizes, our student enrollment, which has been going down slightly. And so when people retired or left the district for one reason or another, we really looked at who do we absolutely have to replace and still keep our class sizes at a reasonable level. So in that year, there were 9 teaching positions that we did not replace. So we've tried to avoid handing people pink slips, even though that's a reality sometimes, and we've done some of that. We've really tried to do this through attrition the best that we can because we've seen it coming for a long time. Preschool aides, 10% reduction in district in building budgets. Told all the principals your budget for running your building is X. We're cutting that down 10%, and we've maintained that. Going to the next page, and notice we're copying front back, so we save paper. Community Relations Coordinator, we had a position, we were paying someone $60,000 to do that job. That person left. Now that's a change. We brought somebody else back at half of that at $30,000. Business manager, we start looking at administrative positions in our school district. Assistant superintendent, business manager, one of the assistant principals at the high school, and most recently is the assistant maintenance supervisor retired. So 4 of our administrative positions have been eliminated. We have about 30 administrators. That's about 12-13% of our administrative staff has been eliminated. On our website, if you go to the red SOS button and click on that, there's a lot of financial information. One of those things you'll see are Summit County cost comparisons. Our administrative cost per pupil in this school district is the second lowest in Summit County. The only school district that pays a lower dollar per pupil for administrative cost is Norton. It's the only one. When you look at instructional cost, we're 4th at the bottom. Total cost per pupil, 4th from the bottom. SOS button, you'll find it there. That same year, 7.5 positions, teaching positions were eliminated. 10 and 11, we implemented pay to participate, or we actually increased pay to participate at that point. While all of this is going on, we had been on the ballot. We decided to get off the ballot for about 2 years. And we said, we've asked people for additional dollars. The community said we were not in a position to support that at this time. So then we began a community engagement process. 44 meetings we went through. Alderman, myself, board members, others, meeting in people's homes, at schools, and so on, and saying, hey, we've got this financial problem. Where do you want us to look in terms of reductions? They came up after a 44 meeting, compiled all of that conversation. They came up with 9 areas to look at to make reductions. Pay to participate was one. We implemented that and increased it. Can you do something about busing? We eliminated high school busing for some savings. What about the middle school? Do we really need to do that middle school concept? Well, if I can refer you to the next page, the last page, which was last year, we had a middle school committee that worked on reworking the middle school, which resulted in, where it says Kimpton certified reductions, 9. We reduced 9 certified positions at Kimpton last year as part of that community engagement conversation. They also said, look at your buildings. Do you need 9 buildings, Russ? I mean, in 1984, maybe we needed 9 buildings. Do you still need 9 buildings? We did have we did hire a gentleman through the Ohio Schools Council who's a retired business manager, has been involved, done these kind of studies before, who did a report for the board. None of the options were real attractive, to be quite honest with you, but there are some opportunities. We haven't implemented those yet. So that community engagement process, we went through and tried to implement as many of those. Another one was items governed by negotiations. I think many of you know that we did go through negotiations with both our classified and certified staff this year. They all have agreed to a 2-year pay freeze, no longevity steps. They also have agreed to increase their contribution to health care from 5% this year, last year, 10% this year, 15% next year. I know that 15% probably sounds pretty good for many of you who are in the private sector, but it's meeting the Senate Bill 5 idea, and that trend is going in the right direction. So our employees have stepped up to the plate, recognized our financial situation, and said, we're going to sacrifice too. So when you get down to that, another thing through the community engagement process was, can you look at outsourcing? Can you hire private companies to do this more cheaply? We were able to, with the help of Mrs. Ballgren and others, we discovered that we were able to use our federal IDEA dollars, Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, in which we get federal funding for. We can use that to pay for our preschool. Public schools are required to provide preschool services for children who have disabilities at age 3. One of the things that happens with that is research tells us that kids who have disabilities at those young ages, if they have typical peers with them, kids with no disabilities, and they're able to interact with those kids, that they have a higher rate of acceleration in terms of their development. So that allows us to offer preschool for other families in our district. Long story short is we were pulling that out of the general fund. Now we're using our federal dollars, and that $400,000 goes back into the general fund for our operating expenses. So when you look at that final cost savings, which we started in that left-hand column, we've saved the taxpayers $7.9 million through these reductions. We have really tightened our belt, looked at our financial situation, tried to deal with it the best we can, and now, as I've said before, we're at the end. We have nothing left, folks. We're looking at academic programs down the road, and I think you're all aware of what we have on the table November 8th. The cumulative savings, if we would have done nothing, we would have done none of this, it would have cost the community $15.5 million more. And we've been able to cut that off. So we're in a tough spot here. And I think this document really, again, tells our story in terms of what we've been able to do to offset this and keep pushing it out, pushing it out, pushing it out. No new money since 2002. 2002. So that's why we're on the ballot.
Okay. Hang on to your questions. We have 3 students here tonight that desperately need to get home and do their homework. Desperately need to do it. And they'll introduce themselves. I know all 3 of them personally. They're all reasonably good kids. Reasonably good. They're really running from the law tonight. Anyway, go ahead, guys. You ask us if you can speak.
Okay. My name is Dominic Aristide, and I am currently a senior at Stow Munroe Falls High School. Now, I'm involved in several of the clubs there. I'm involved in both speech and debate and the senior class play. Now, both of these are going to be affected if the levy is not passed. So already we have seen that, well, not you, but the people in the play have seen, and the people in the school have seen, that we had to move the play up, cut our rehearsal schedule very short, and go extra long, because if we don't pass this levy, all of our hard work would have been destroyed, because the building would close before we could get practices in, and before we could have before we could have the actual play itself. And that to some of you may not sound like, oh, why is that a big deal? What's this part of education? Well, for a lot of people, these plays, these productions mean everything to them. For people who want to go to the theater, to all those theatrical arts, who want to go into drama, this means a lot to them. And you know, even for those who don't excel academically, like my two cohorts over here. I might have poorly worded that. They excel academically as well as I meant like, you get my point. You excel academically. You can beat me up later. Poor lady, I like that.
You have to get after him for a slushy on the way home. I have direct orders from the school board, Dom. It has to happen.
What I meant to say was, for those who don't excel academically like us, who do excel academically, is what I meant to add there. You know, they don't have that same, you know, academic, what, you know, some other people have. They don't get to go to class every day to all the AP classes that we go to and get, you know, perfect scores on tests or, you know, get good grades on our essays. They have to go there and they face C's, D's, and even F's. You know, they don't have a big future in that part of their lives, but drama means everything to them. And I know students like that. And that is very important then that this drama club, and that the plays keep going, because they have a future in theater. And if the theater is closed in our school, we have closed their opportunity to have a theatrical life. Schools offer things like scholarships for people who are in additional clubs, and a lot of clubs are going to be affected by this levy if it's closed down. Now, the second organization that I'm involved in the club is Speech and Debate. Now, Speech and Debate is something that's very, very interesting to me and to my other two people over here. For those of us who are on the team, we get up every morning at 5 o'clock, we get ready, we go to Saturday tournaments, sometimes all day, even into the next morning. And we debate other kids from other schools on topics ranging from U.S. politics to, you know, should cyberbullying be outlawed, to from this to that, to anything you can really think of. And now this may seem like, well, it's just a little sport the kids can have. Why does that affect us? We've had a lot of very important people come out of Speech and Debate. We've had lawyers, we've had doctors, we've had people going, you know, to attorney fields and things like that. Speech and Debate is very important. It may not seem like that to some people, but it is very important. It helps you develop your speaking skills. It helps you develop your skills standing in front of a public audience. It's very important. And a lot of kids love that too. Now, granted, there aren't academically challenged kids in there, but there are a lot of kids in there who are very passionate about going in a much higher educated field than there would be in many other places. And a lot of those higher educations want to see fields where you do things that involve public speaking, involve writing speeches, involve debating other topics and improving their skills like that. And a lawyer would be one of those positions. And that speech and debate would be a very important thing for a lawyer to be in, because that's where you develop your skills. Now, all the clubs are going to be affected by this. And a lot of people that I have talked to are very upset by the situation. Now, they know the community isn't too happy about the levy. The community isn't really happy with anything, and especially with the economic situation. I understand some of you guys and girls, you know, your feelings towards everything that's going on. However, the levy is very important to everybody in high school. For those who do and don't excel academically, who do these clubs, it means everything to them. People in the Spanish club, the Japanese club, all those people who have passions in the school, who really need these clubs because they know that this is their love. And, you know, whether they do get good grades or whether they don't, this is their love and this is what they want to do. They want this to be part of their future. And taking that away from them is something that they just wouldn't be able to bear. And on top of that, I know it right now, I'm applying to colleges. And they want to see all kinds of activities on there. They want to see clubs, organizations. They want to see what you've done since preschool. Pretty much. I mean, they want to see a lot. And if these clubs and everything shut down, what are we going to put on our college applications? What higher education place is going to take us when they see, well, why isn't he in anything? Why isn't this girl in anything? Why? What is all this? They don't go at every community and say, did you pass a levy? You know, did you do this? No. I mean, if we can't get involved in programs, we're losing scholarship opportunities. We're losing opportunities to get into better schools. I mean, all in all, this really does affect our education. And it really affects all the students at Stow Munroe Falls High School. And we even know that the levy goes even beyond that. It's going to affect kids at other schools too. And I know I'm a senior, and this is my last year here in Stow, and I want to go to a nice out-of-state college. But you know what? I really care about everyone in Stow, because we are a community, and I believe that everyone in the community should care about everyone else. And I know that every student under me, whether they're my brother or not, whether I know them or not, they have things that are important to them that just because I'm a senior, I shouldn't ignore them. And I really care for the people who are freshmen in my school, at Stow Munroe Falls High School. If this levy doesn't pass, who will not have the same privileges that I have been so honored to have? So please, I implore you to please vote yes for this levy, because it means so much to me, to my friends, and to everyone in the school district. Thank you.
Thank you.
My turn.
You can badge me.
I'll get to that later. I'm not quite the charismatic improv guy that my friend Dom is, but I'll give it my best shot. My name is Tim Freeborg. I am a senior at Stow Munroe Falls High School, much the same as these two. I, throughout my high school career, have been a member of the Japanese club for 4 years, the drama club for 2 years. I'm a member of the speech and debate team right now. I was in the junior class play, and right now I'm casting the senior class play also. And I suppose the best evidence I can give as to why you should support this levy just comes out of my own experiences and what I've seen throughout my 4 years in all of these different activities. Japanese club in particular, I've watched it grow ever since I was a freshman, and we are, as the Japanese club, are often overlooked in a lot of ways because we're smaller than the Spanish program, we're smaller than the French program. All these other languages are far more well known. People see the Japanese program and they think, well, it's something different, it's something that's not very common, and it's generally just flies under the radar. But the people we attract are some of the most passionate members of any club I have ever seen in my life. This last year, I was elected to be the treasurer for the club, and for the last couple of years, our club's enrollment has been down. Freshmen haven't really been attracted to it because they're intimidated by the difficulty of the program. This year proved to be quite an exception. We got more freshman recruits this year for the Japanese club than the entire rest of the Japanese club put together. Our club has just over 42 members, and there were 26 freshmen at our first club meeting. And I've gone through high school in this club. I've been in all of their events. 2 years ago, we were able to organize a class-wide trip to Japan for anyone who wanted to go to that. And we put together fundraisers. We were engaged in the community. We went out and did so many different activities to get people involved. And it was just astounding watching the entire group sort of converge together and work as a team and to achieve one gigantic goal, and to watch these people so passionate in one particular area just excel at what they love. And it really pains me to know that it's very entirely possible that as soon as 1 year after I leave, all of that can just disappear. That this group of 26 enthusiastic freshmen will never have the opportunities that I had throughout my entire high school career just because of monetary technicality. And moving even beyond the Japanese club, when I was in junior class play, I saw so many people, so different, so many contrasting personalities, different goals, people who never even talked to each other normally, just converge into one single coherent organization that was capable of achieving a show that was just fantastic, and we did extremely well in all of our performances. And again, it's difficult for me to even know that even after this senior class play is over, which, if the levy does in fact fail, our senior class play will be finishing right on the deadline before cuts go into effect. It pains me to know that even the junior class after me, who I've worked with in so many of these drama club events, even they will not have these opportunities. Even they will not be able to experience any of this. They will be left with virtually nothing, little compensation for it. And I suppose what I'm really getting at is that we as students are involved in so much more than just pure academics. And clubs offer far more than just social gatherings for people to get together and just talk to their friends and have fun. We do so much more beyond all of that. The Japanese group went to Japan one summer. We got full-on international experiences, opportunities that so few people have in their entire lives, let alone at the high school level. And letting all of this just disappear over something as simple as a school levy, just, in my opinion, feels like it would be a travesty and an injustice to all of us. It would be an injustice to the students, it would be an injustice to the community the students are engaged in, it would be an injustice to the world to deny them more well-rounded people that they could have otherwise had. It seems to me to be a crime. And that's really all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Shirley Sundaram. I am a senior just as they are, this year. And I also participate in a lot of extracurricular activities. The one that I'm most actively involved in this year is our Science Olympiad team, which I was also part of last year. And we interact with so many different schools in tournaments every from January to March. And we get to work on such a variety of scientific events and build up our scientific knowledge in many different fields, ranging from ecology to microbiology to building towers and being able to actively involve ourselves in skills that are needed for anyone who wants to pursue a scientific career in their future. And as we know, such a majority of the successful people in our community are in scientific careers, whether it be, doctors or engineers. And these skills really help build up the potential of students so that they can excel in those careers in the future. And last year, actually, I probably should go back to when I was in middle school. When I was in middle school, a lot of these cuts that we are seeing now had not yet been implemented. I was in the Science Olympiad team in 7th grade, and we made it to the state level after the regionals. We placed 4th in the in our Akron regional, and we made it to state level so we could compete at the state competition in Columbus. And basically what we were able to do is we were all able to bus as a team the night before, and we were able to stay in Columbus. And the next day we were able to, actively participate in the tournament and have that experience. Last year, they basically made it so that we couldn't do that. We had to, even though we made it to states, we had to get up at 3:30 in the morning and bus all the way there, just so we could bus all the way to Columbus so that we could be there by 7 o'clock and compete in the tournament. And I noticed that our placings at the tournament, at the state tournament, were far lower than they were in the middle school, because obviously, as high school students, such an exhausting trip can really kind of demoralize us and cause us not to be able to perform as well. And I really believe that had we been given the opportunity to, let's say, go the night before, as ridiculous as it sounds, it would have really improved our performance. And I think that had the levy been passed a few years back, these opportunities would not have been denied to us. And I'm fearful for the future that the opportunities in this team will go even lower and lower. Let's say we have educational field trips for Science Olympiad that aren't like precisely the tournaments. The last year we were able to make a trip to the National History Museum, the Museum of Natural History in Cleveland, and and learn all about different scientific fields. And if the levy doesn't pass this year, obviously we won't have busing for such a trip, and so that trip would be denied. And it's just, I see that the clubs in general, they're dwindling. the opportunities that they're presented, that students are presented within the clubs are getting lower and lower. And I know that I'm a senior and I'm graduating this year and I'm still getting a lot, but as Dom said, the freshmen this year, they still have 3 more years of high school. And I have a feeling that if the levy doesn't pass, by the time they're in 12th grade, they will be able to do next to nothing other than just their core school courses. Last year I've been actively involved in drama. Last year I was in the musical. And I was one of the lead characters. And I knew that previously I had never acted in my life. And you know, I had certain fears of going up on stage first time and acting when I had never done it before. But the experience last year in the musical really gave me that stage presence that I needed to perform in front of such a large audience. And I feel like there's so many students who gain such knowledge from being able to do such things, from going on stage. They're able to go beyond their fears of stage fright, get up on stage and actually sing and perform in front of so many people. And that builds up confidence. It's those type of people that we need for our future generation. And they're the ones that will be able to most effectively serve our community and to give back. You know, people in speech and debate, they gain so many skills, so many vocational skills so that they can prove themselves in society. They can speak to people. They can be convincing in their college interviews. And that's another thing. Like, we're applying to colleges, and the colleges want to see what we've done. And if we don't have an impressive resume, like, for example, let's say the freshmen this year, by the time they get to their senior year, and they don't have as many extracurricular activities that they can be part of, their resumes are not going to look that impressive. And another issue that I've been noticing that I have a feeling is causing students to turn away from these extracurricular activities is the extent of our pay to participate fees. Because instead of balancing the cost of these extracurricular activities demand among the whole community, they're all being concentrated among the few people that really need to participate in these extracurricular activities. And hence, we find ourselves paying $100 for each extracurricular activity we're in. And many people can't afford that. And so the parents are encouraging their students not to join as many extracurricular activities. And that is kind of taking away their opportunity to build the character and the knowledge base that they can gain. Because our school classes teach us the essentials that we need to be successful in college. Extracurriculars teach us the essentials we need to be successful in life. And I really believe that if these students are not motivated enough to join these extracurricular activities, then they're not going to get the essentials they need to be successful in life. And without that, having a degree from college doesn't really make a difference at all to the world. So anyway, I really implore you to pass the levy so that we can all, so that the future students can have the same experiences and the opportunities that my peers as seniors have been fortunate to have all these years. And anyway, thank you for listening.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the three of you for coming. I'd also like to say, too, that once the word got out that we were going to have these community meetings, the student organizations pretty much unanimously asked how they could help. And I would emphasize that these guys came on their own accord. They asked if they could participate in these, if it would be possible to speak before the public and plead their case, as it were. They weren't coerced or paid or anything else in any fashion whatsoever that you might hear otherwise. So with that in mind, thanks again. We'll open the floor for discussion. We do have some board members tonight, if there is time, and this is about you guys. It's not about the board and the administration, it's about you guys. We do have time and permitting, we may ask them to answer a couple of questions. So with that in mind,
Oh, yeah. Okay.
sure. You sure you're going to get your homework done tonight?
It's not even Sunday.
At 4 a.m. Monday morning, it's no problem, Dom, I understand.
I said Latin.
The floor is open for questions and comments.
I would like to make a comment I think that this is what this levy is all about. And how well articulate are our seniors this year? Tonight at our board meeting, Christine Rodner, our state legislator, gave a commendation to the board and the superintendent and the school district for its excellence rating. And she had been involved in the Distinguished Alumni Weekend that was just held, and was extremely impressed with the alumni that we honored at this weekend event. And her comment was she also got involved with the schools, and she was so impressed with the level of leadership that our students exude that she said we have a great big challenge as we have more alumni coming forward. And here's a perfect example of what she was talking about. And I really think that there is a lot of stuff out there that is negative, and it'll be negative against the superintendent, it's negative against me, it's negative against the board, but this is what this levy is all about. And one of my colleagues said it perfectly. If you have any question about whether or not to vote for this levy and you're thinking about voting no, go home, look your child right in the eye and say, you are not worth that $17 a month for this levy. And I really ask you to take a good look at that, think about that, because really that's all it boils down to. Yes.
I'd also like to make another comment here. I had the privilege one day to sit in on a staff meeting at the high school because I was helping out Miss Lancy, which is our high school librarian. And I was kind of taken aback by some of the things that I actually heard that were going to happen if this levy had failed. Like Dr. Jones did mention earlier, academic programs are next. And academic programs are, even though extracurricular activities, as I explained, are very important and do prepare us for life, academics they are way up there, and they are very important. I mean, and I know some of the things that are going to be looked at are definitely foreign languages that don't have great enrollment, and are going to be AP classes, and those are the big things that we as students really care about. Classes where academic students really excel, where they have engineering classes like physics, and then you have your chemistry, you have your AP classes such as history and government and politics. Those are very, very important to a lot of people.
Thank you, Don.
It's not only to the people, but as seniors, we're applying to colleges, and they like to see, when they get our transcript, they like to see that we've challenged ourselves. Whether we get A's on these classes or not is what they're focused on. They're focused on the fact that we took AP Biology, we took AP Physics and Chemistry and Government, and that we actually challenged ourselves to take those classes and fight through it the entire year and take the AP test. And whether we succeed with the best grades or not, that doesn't matter to them. And sometimes for many students, it's those courses that they take and that they're able to show on their transcripts that get them into the college that they desire to go to. And if they don't even have the opportunity to take the said courses, then how are the colleges going to know what they're capable of?
Okay.
And, that's basically the whole point.
ACT scores though too, right? And
Yeah.
that's
ACT and SAT scores.
They go a lot by that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
plus your transcript.
I've looked at a lot, as we're applying, I've looked at a lot of things, and they do look for ACT and SAT scores. However, the big thing that they look for, the two big things, are extracurriculars and involvement in the community, and then they look for the rigor of your course.
And
And
that's-
we take,
it might be worth adding too.
I have a
that-
senior also.
I'm sorry.
No, I agree with all that he's saying. I
Yeah,
have a senior.
that's very true. It also applies to your scholarship applications too, not just the universities.
Yes.
Hey, let's open it up to some questions if we could.
I'm not going to ask a question, I'll tell you something right now. Don't ever let anybody belittle you because you are in a club. That's a misnomer. As far as I'm concerned, I'm sure everybody else is, that should be referred to as an extracurricular academic activity. Because what you're doing in drama, what you're doing in science, what you're doing in speech and debate, what you're doing in Japanese, and the whole 10 yards, is feeding your performance in your regular core instructional courses. So that, as far as I'm concerned, all what you're involved in is an extracurricular academic activity.
That's why colleges look at that. And that does go toward the rigor. They don't just look at ACT.
Well, I know that, but I'm just saying that they do go by
But I have a friend whose daughter finished college, and she had the same EP courses as another student in another high school, and it was all of the extra things that she did, and the rigor that she did that got her into that college of her choice. So it's very competitive too. A lot more competitive than it used to be in getting into a college. And
What
I'm
kind of
just
colleges are we talking about, though?
She goes to Oberlin,
Okay,
but even Ohio State is a lot more difficult.
Well,
to get into than it was.
a lot of this, isn't it, a lot of the ones around here, like at Toledo or Avenue, Kent State,
you know, and are they as strict? I don't know, because I haven't had to.
The way I've perceived it so far is that they like test scores. They want to see how you do in standardized testing. But but I think colleges really do understand that some people aren't the greatest test takers, and they also what they really try to focus on is how well you write your college essay to them. You know, how you present yourself, how rigorous your course really is. I mean, because anyone can take all these easy electives and get A's in them.
Right.
But it takes a lot of guts to take all AP classes and get B's and C's, but that's far more rigorous. And they also look for the heavy-set extracurricular activities.
Tim, very quickly.
I would say that one way or another, I don't really think it's correct to judge what college would look for based on any one particular set of criteria, because different students are going to have different transcripts, are going to have different test scores, are going to have different curricular activities. I don't think it's really possible to judge what a college is going to look for based on any one particular set of criteria.
We just happen to have someone from Kent State here in front of us.
Yeah.
I'll let you speak.
Maybe never say it is, we look at all the things. We look at test scores, we look at grades, we look at activities. It's a combination picture, and you try to get a good overall student who's done a little bit of all those things well. And I think for us right now, one of the things we're looking at is our applications are increasing at such a rapid rate that the standards we're going to be looking for at Kent State are going to get higher and higher over the next probably 5 years.
A well-rounded student, regardless of what they're involved in, they want to be able to show that they can hold a 15-hour-a-week job, that they can keep up with their homework, that they have good scores, that they're even if they're just an average student, if they're involved in 5 to 6 different activities and doing all those things and keeping those balls in the air all at the same time, that's what they're really looking for the most.
That's what I thought.
Okay, before we get to you guys, what I'd like to do now, are there questions regarding the issue? You know, the issue is the levy itself right now.
I just have a question, not regarding, well, kind of. I was talking to somebody today, and when was the last time we had a levy on the ballot for new money? Was it 2000?
August, we were on the ballot.
For new money, right. When was the renewal passed? Did we pass
A
it?
year ago?
A year ago, right? And then when was it before that? That's the one I wanted to know, the one before, because this person was confused. They think that we've been asking for, like, not August, but the one we passed for the renewal was for new money. I'm like, no, it wasn't correct, exactly. So I'd like to be able to have the right information.
2008.
2008 was the last time.
But we asked for it.
Right. I understand that we haven't gotten it since 2002. That I know. I just wanted to know the last time.
For the record, and this may help you some, Catherine can fill in some gaps here. The last new money levy that was passed was 2002. That $1 of 2002 money is worth 72 cents today, just as a reference. We have passed 3 new money levies in the last 25 years. Yeah, 3 new money levies. Now, there have been renewal levies from, maybe you can speak better to this, Catherine. There have been renewal levies since then that renewed the money that was passed in 1986, 1992, and 2002. Those have been renewed since then, but recognize the dollars stay the same.
Correct.
The millage will fluctuate based on the varying housing values of the county.
Right.
But the dollar value, we get the same dollars each year. Okay, so, I don't know.
But that's a good question and something to understand because our renewals of our emergency levies are every 5 years. People do get confused about, well, I just passed the
5 years, okay.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons, that's one reason, but the other reason is the law now provides that we can go up to 10 years. So this levy's 10 years. And then once, hopefully it passes November, we will need to be asking because our next renewal is due.
Right.
So we will be back on the ballot for a renewal. But of course, that's not a tax increase. It's already money the district's getting, you're already paying it, you have for over 20 years, so.
Please keep in mind that as soon as it's passed and we collect that first $6.5 million, the value of that $6.5 million goes down every year with inflation. And the cost associated with running the school district either stay the same or go up. We don't generate money.
I think it's a common misconception, that's what I'm getting.
You're right. And I would also add too, it's all public information, but there's an organization called ohiomac.com, ohiomac.com. And I'm not exactly sure the process of getting through to it, but it looks like you probably have to go through 17 pages and God knows what else. But there is a section that gives you the election history for any school district, or any county, any school district in Ohio.
Actually, you have to be an OMAC member to
Do
get
you?
that, and I am a member, so
Okay.
I have access to those reports if you're interested.
Tom?
Yes, I'd like to start off my comment by commending our school board and everybody else who's really made this work since 2002, because I mean, we haven't had any new money since then, and the way that our school runs right now, the way that everything is, thus far, is very good, and I think that we've done a really good job, but my analogy here is going to be to a car. When you get a brand new car, it's beautiful, but you know, over time, eventually it starts to degrade, and you may make the maintenance repairs to it every once in a while, but eventually, you've got to get a major overhaul or you've got to get a new one here. And right now, our car is dying. And we can't really do anything about it unless we get this thing majorly overhauled. So we really got to push to get this levy passed.
That's a great analogy, thank you.
Okay. Other questions?
These
comments?
cuts that from 2006, 2007, that was made by the old board, correct? There wasn't, those were done before any of the people that are on the board.
The 06-07 was the.
And that's when Tom Adams was here.
Yeah, that was.
And that was all of their recommendations with Ryan and the zoning and all that.
Go ahead.
Not Tom.
Here was other.
He didn't make any of these recommendations for the food service or the Honeywell?
Yes, he did. I thought you meant,
I'm talking about the
You're talking about Jake's.
715,000. But that was all done before the board that's in now.
Yes.
Yeah, Tom and Ryan were actively involved with the Honeywell project, absolutely.
And the food service.
Yes, reduction.
Okay, and then you just didn't do the assistant superintendent. Now, I got another question, because you're stating now, with the teaching positions, all of those people that held those positions are gone from the district. Is that what you're saying? Because that would actually be, if they're not, their salaries are still inside the budget, correct?
Okay. Well, you want to tackle that?
The way the contracts are set up, you are let go by the least seniority. So we may have a position that someone with higher seniority holds that we're letting go. That particular teacher isn't gone. A teacher with lower seniority is gone, and then that teacher is moved to here. But there is a full position gone and a full position not paid for.
But the same amount of money of the higher staff is still in the budget.
Well, we
Goes by seniority.
No, it might be different.
Not the same amount.
Let me give you an example.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that would do. Yes.
The savings are reflecting the lower senior teachers.
If you look at the third page, you see Kimpton last year, 9 reductions.
Okay.
So we can tell you that there are 9 less certified positions at Kimpton.
Okay.
Now, based on what Kathy said, the people who are in those positions that are being eliminated, if they are more senior than somebody else, they may bump somebody out.
Right.
But an example is, we had a teacher who was in one of those 9 positions who replaced a teacher at Woodland who retired. The teacher at Woodland retired at this salary. The teacher from Kimpton who moved in to replace her came in a lower salary. So you have that position.
So what happened to the position at Kimpton? Because I mean, it was eliminated.
So
All the reading teachers at Kimpton were eliminated. They
There's
were
less
all made into
teachers.
one position.
So you have-
So all those teachers, those positions.
But they're
were
still,
As of last year, we had a teacher at Woodland,
okay,
top of the scale,
okay.
35 years, making $70,000, getting ready to retire.
Okay.
We had a teacher at Kimpton making $56,000. Okay? This teacher, so we got 2 positions.
Okay.
This teacher retired.
So you should really only have like that $20,000 difference in the savings.
No, add them together.
Yeah.
Add them together.
70 to 56.
Minus 76.
This one's gone from the system because she retired. This one slides over and takes her spot. Nobody replaces this one. That's one of the 9. Got it?
So we're only paying 56,000. We were paying
120, yeah. So that's one of the savings. Is that complicated? That's the kind of shell game we play to eliminate and reduce.
and to do it properly. We're doing
And I think the board members could say, we send this to them, who went where, who went there. We have-
Well, it's also based on their certification, so even though they're not the one with the least seniority, they're the one with the least seniority with that kind of certification.
The way the reduction in headcount, it becomes a very difficult process for the school board, especially the administration, because they're following the classes around to make sure they have the right teachers.
Correct.
What happens is, when we actually, and Catherine vouched for this, when we actually sit down to come up with the savings that it's going to generate, you look at all the positions that are going that we're saying are not needed anymore, you can't add all of those up and say that's a savings of $250,000, you pick a number. What you have to do is you have to do this, you have to add them all up and then realize that that person's going to bump this person, is going to bump this person, is going to bump this, and what you end up with is the person that's actually leaving is the $40,000 person, not the $76,000 person, because of the contract allowing the bump right down the line.
Okay.
As long as you're certain.
So do we know, as far as with all of these eliminations, since we're retired and all of that, do we know how many teachers at that time we had and how many that we have now?
I know with the 9 at Kimpton, if I'm recalling the numbers correctly, we had about 20 teachers either retire or leave the system last year, roughly.
Okay.
Out of those 9 at Kimpton, I know 2 retired, I believe 2 retired. Those other 7, we were able to find spots elsewhere to fill in those retirement slots that were open. But those 9 spots at Kimpton were not replaced.
Okay, but I'm just wondering, I know what you're saying, but I'm just trying to find out from 2006, 2007, 2008, 2009, how many teacher staff did we have at that time? The total number was the full-time teachers.
The total number, we give the board an update every 2 weeks, and we look at, I think it's what, Eddie, a year and a half ago, we say here, or a year ago, we say here are the number of certified employees we have. Then we go like 6 months ago, 3 months ago, in the last couple of months. So they can follow, and Denny was really a stickler on following the head count, counting the head.
Because I got on
Yeah,
the...
do you have that? Yeah, I see that. He's got that one. Same with the classified. We identify how many classified employees we had a year and a half ago, a year ago, 6 months ago, and you can see
And
that.
if you're looking at like the names and counting up all the names, say 5 years ago compared to this year, don't forget that some positions are job share. So it might look like 2 teachers, but it's
Right.
1 position.
Yeah, I know that.
So I just wanted to say
No,
that.
that I
That's a good
understand.
point.
I can can tell you when I'm doing the comprehensive annual financial report and I do the statistical data in there, it may appear that our certified staff numbers aren't changing. And that's because we're counting every certificated teacher when I'm doing my report. So I know that.
So that's the number that you send into the state, that's on the state website?
Send it into the state.
You have to send in for the students for each school, that goes to the state.
EMIS report?
Our staff report.
Yeah, the list,
Yeah,
how many
and
students
it
we
would
have
be-
and how many.
It would be that same number. The staff report that goes to the state also reports how many certificated teachers we have.
Okay.
What you're looking at there are cuts that were made out of our general fund. What has happened, we could have let 9 teachers go that we were paying for out of general fund, but because of IEPs and special education needs, we may have brought in 9 full-time tutors that are paid for out of the special education grant. So our numbers of certificated staff reported to the state, also reported in my CAPR, may not look like they change very much from year to year. But that's because you're not comparing apples to apples. It's apples to oranges. Because our numbers, state and ours, are relative to all of the funds that we pay certificated people out of. That report there and the 5-year forecast are only our operating fund teachers. So when we're saying there's 9 teachers that were let go, a perfect example is the preschool program. That has been cut. Those teachers were paid for out of the general fund. Well, the savings to the district, even though we're continuing a preschool program, is we have hired the Summit County Educational Service Center to do their program. They will bill us, and we will pay for that out of our special education funds. So even though we still have a preschool program, we no longer are paying for it out of the general fund. And the only way legally we could spend federal money to do that was to go through that particular process. Okay, so that has been confusing. I know in the past, public record requests took our numbers for certificated staff and then said, see, they really didn't cut and it's really not accurate.
Was there an easier way for you to make a report to make it look more accurate so that people can understand that?
I'm a little understaffed right now, and with the public record requests that we're getting inundated with, we are hardly getting our jobs done. And unfortunately, to add another report in that is not required or, something.
Well, that's a lot of things said is that not being required, but I think it would help everybody if they, the average person would be able to figure something, to look at exactly how you're saying.
Well, that's
Yeah,
why
it's above
we
and
put that.
beyond.
That's why we generated that. That was specifically generated to make it clear that savings that we're actually worked for.
Okay.
Okay, we can, other questions?
I have a question because my boys are involved in sports, not clubs. Basketball, which is a winter sport. And I know that we do the pay to play. And you guys are talking about if the levy doesn't pass, the schools will close at 6, the high school specifically. How can we have a basketball program if we don't have, because aren't the schedules already set through the, aren't the schedules already set where we're virtually committed to these games?
I actually may be able to answer your question. I have spoken to some of the people who do coach and some of the people who have who play on those teams, and what they've been talking about is actually raising their own funds to do some of these things, to play games elsewhere. As a matter of fact,
But that's not my question. My question is, and I understand what you're saying, I do. My question is, are we already committed to having these games in our schools because by contract?
We have contracts with individual schools. So
Okay.
we play Mayfield, for
Right.
example.
Here at home?
We have a contract with them. they're coming here and we're gonna start JV game 6:30, 6 o'clock. Feldman calls the AD and says, hey, our buildings are closed at 6. You wanna come at 4? And hopefully they will. Cuyahoga Falls has already said they will. Hudson, I believe, has said they will. It's up to Mayfield. AD may say, I can't get our folks there, you know, our parents, so we have to go to their place to play a game.
And how will the kids get there?
By bus.
Our buses?
Yes. They're paying to participate, so we'll still provide transportation.
But you're giving up all of that money that's coming in to pay the fees.
Well, yeah, it's like the fees for, I mean, wouldn't the fees for the actual, I mean, I'm just thinking, if you have 1,000 people paying $6 to go to a basketball game, which I know like 2,200 can fit in there, my oldest son played there. But some people come for free, students or less, so let's say 6,000. If we have 10 games at home, that's 60 grand. So $6,000 per
For 10
game.
games at home.
For 10 games
That's
at
what-
home. That's why I'm thinking 10 games at home.
Right.
The thing is, let's say just $6,000 per game. That $6,000 per game is not enough to pay for the school remaining open for that event.
But I'll
First of all, the proceeds from the games go into the athletic fund, and they fund all of the athletic programs. So,
Right, but everybody pays all.
money-making sports are football, basketball. All of the other sports that need supplies and equipment, those proceeds pay for, and they're not in the general fund or the operating fund or what we're working with the forecast. The money that is paid for coaches and any athletic programming and the fees that we receive both go into and come out of the general fund.
But can't you get money from the athletic fund to help the school district to do those games?
The athletic fund is hardly solvent as we speak. What the money it generates, it spends. And if you think about it, we do have a lot of athletic programs going on, and the board at this time doesn't really support the athletic program by giving it money. So
It's supporting itself, basically.
it is.
And the income that's derived from basketball and football, which are the largest sports, does help to support all the other 40 or 50 that there
Now,
are.
since you're going to be closing the schools, if the levy, I'm just saying,
Good point.
right, correct. Does that mean the maintenance is not going to be there either? To clean the schools, since the buildings are going to be shut
No,
down?
what would happen is, instead of having a night custodian, for example, that's working an 8-hour shift, we'll make adjustments in their schedule to.
So they won't have any, they'll go down to like a 4-hour shift?
Well, whatever the numbers may be, or the days may be.
They'll go to less hours.
That's where your savings. And utilities, there's a tremendous utility savings cost. I signed the water bills. And, you know, a lot of people at that high school, and they're using the facility, you know, your eyes will pop out.
Well, so is that the reason why, since, because in 2009, it stated that the buildings would be open until 11 o'clock? There was a video you made.
That was
so that's
the
why-
original thought, was to try to keep them open until 11 o'clock for the home games and that kind of thing. And we had some more conversations. They said, Russ, you're sending a mixed message here, because when you do that, it's going to look like you're doing it for basketball. And I said, we're trying to treat everybody.
Well, it wouldn't be, it could be for the drama club and all that, they would still be able to perform those, it's not just for basketball.
That's what I said, but they said, you're going to have to explain yourself, and we're on Saturday and Sunday performances, they
Well, as far as,
said.
I mean, if we're, because this levy's only going to get us through 3 years, according to your forecast.
Well,
I just,
according to the May forecast, no,
Yes.
it had us solvent throughout 5 years. The passage
oh, I
of
thought
the
you told me
levy-
when we had lunch that it was only going to be good for like 3 years.
No, the passage of the levy and the passage of the renewal, if you look at the May forecast.
Okay.
Passage of the renewal as well.
With the renewal, okay.
Yes.
So, but then, let's just say, you know, I'm not against the levy, I know we need more funding. Okay. Wouldn't it be a better idea to go ahead and still maybe put
a little bit more to pay to play, so we're not in this mess, you know?
Increase the pay to play? I'm sorry.
Just a little bit, yeah, just if the levy.
Hang on just a second.
We're gonna double it.
You mean if it passes? What do you?
Yeah, so that we have the money already there in case we don't get the renewal.
It affects your participation number greatly.
But not
Because
even
you get a wall.
if you jump it up to 300, let's
No,
say
you
you jump
hit
it up
a,
to
and
200.
Mr. Feldman has those documents, you hit a level and it declines very much.
$450.
Yeah, if you don't have,
One-
we
180, I
could
think
raise
is
it,
what it
but
was.
you don't get the same number of participants, you're not gonna get any
You're not
more
gonna get that
money.
money anyway.
And then who suffers?
So you still are gonna get it even if it passes or. I mean, that starts getting to be such a huge burden on families. Like, one of our things we figured out is it's a huge savings to us to pass the levy. We have 2 sons who are gonna play sports next year. Literally, we could pay $1,800 in pay to play. I mean, that's.
One calendar year.
In 1 calendar year, when we could pay 300 and pass the levy. And I think that we need to talk
But
about
you know what,
that, get that out there.
it's not to follow the residents to keep our kids doing these extra.
Well, I'm not saying that, I'm willing to pay my share, we do, I paid, this year I paid, you know, like $450 for my kids to play sports. I'm just saying that, there needs to be a place where we, I'd be willing to pay 200, I'm just saying, there's
Right,
a
that's
place
what
where
I-
300.
that's what I'm saying.
Jesse, if you heard tonight what
But you're looking-
from all 3 of us,
Yeah, I heard.
the extracurriculars, including
Yeah.
athletics, help them become better at what they are, it instills confidence.
Oh, I see that.
Oh my
That's amazing.
goodness.
Yes, it is huge.
So when you
I have a
say,
question regarding that. Do you guys know how many AP classes are available at the high school?
There's several. I know there's AP Physics, there's AP US History, AP European History is actually a brand new one. I'm joining.
Biology,
Do we know the number?
It's about 12. We've got statistics, we've got computer science, we've got.
I've taken 11, and I think there are 3 AP classes which I have not taken.
There's the same teachers that teach a bunch of other classes.
Yes.
There's not a different
Right.
teacher.
No, I know.
well, the most
Okay.
important thing is,
Hang
it's
on
a part
just a
of our
second.
program. The athletic and extracurriculars are a part of what makes these students whole. And when we're asking the parents to also pay, which they are, like they said right now, if this levy passes and everybody else puts in, they shouldn't have to, because we are tasked to provide the programming to help our students achieve. and be
I
successful.
disagree with you. I do think that the parents that are having their kids do, they should have to pay something towards.
But at some point, it's a
community
thing. Your community has to come together and provide these kids
The community is
opportunities.
The
That's why you live in all these
You
things.
need to support.
Yeah, the community
Just
benefits
because
from it all.
well, I'm not saying we shouldn't pay something, but we shouldn't be overly burdened. I mean, these kids, like she said, if you're playing, they are wonderful, but her parents shouldn't have to pay $400 because she wants to be in 4 different clubs. You know, I mean, there should be a line that's drawn of.
Well, there should be a line.
Well, that's the reason people move to Stow.
Right.
Because, you know,
I've
it's
done that
hefty.
when I lived here all my life.
I mean,
And all those programs have been here the whole time, except for a short window.
I mean, they're
where we went
growing,
through this
we're
before.
growing as a community.
I've been through, where the busing, and that's another thing. Why is high school busing going back on since everybody's pretty much used to it? That would still save money for the district later on.
I got a call about a month ago from a mom. She said, Russ, we talked earlier before, she said, Russ, I'm a single mom. I live, like 4 miles from the high school. She said, I can't get my child. Do you have any other options for us? Are there any other agencies doing anything? We've checked with the Metro. We can't get. She said, she starts crying. She said, I'm afraid I'm going to lose my job, and then what am I going to do? Then I can't pay my rent. Then I'm going to have to move. And so that's just one example. And I drop my daughter off at the high school every morning, and it's a mess. I mean, maybe people are used to it, but it is a mess. And we're just trying to say, for those who need it, we're not going to run buses everywhere, but for those who need it and really are going to use it, we're just simply talking about cluster stops. So if there's a neighborhood.
We had those when I was growing up.
Yeah, you know, there's 15 kids, and John Damon's, we've already requested that information from parents who really wants the service. He'll identify, you know, where it makes sense, 1, 2, 3 stops. High school kids are gonna have to walk a few blocks, they're not gonna be curb service. But by just adding a little bit of time to some of our drivers' runs, we can provide that service, alleviate that burden for some parents. And I'm not gonna get those kind of calls with a mom saying, I'm gonna lose my job because I can't get my kid to school.
Okay. I have a question. It's kind of a personal one for me. I have a 5th, 7th, and 8th grade, or 9th grader. But I've heard from a lot of parents, and this is virtually the email that I sent to you, which must have been overlooked, that I was hearing from parents that teachers are talking to kids during class that they need to go home and tell their parents to pass the levy. Well, one day it happened to my son, 10 years old. He said, Mom, what's a levy? Okay. Now, my 10-year-old has anxiety issues. Okay? All he heard about is everything that he's not going to have. I have been having conversations with him ever since then, because I think it's being talked about. Teachers need to stop talking about it in school, period. Parents, there was one mom who said her son comes home almost the teacher talks about it almost every day. And our children, especially our younger children, I can see it in government class in the high school, that this is an issue that's going on now, or something to that effect. I understand that. My 10-year-old does not need the anxiety-ridden comments from a teacher. And whether she said it gently or whether she said it indignantly, I don't know. But a lot of parents on the website that we have, they've just been, it's not helping the cause any. It's not. And it's my responsibility as a parent to help my child understand.
Well, let me share with you what I was saying to the faculties as I've been.
You need to tell them just no. Don't talk about it.
What website?
Or talk. Parents and Citizens for Stow Munroe Falls Students on Facebook.
Well, here's what I've been saying to them, because teachers do have freedom of speech to a degree. So here's what I've been saying to them. I told them, I don't expect you to be promoting the levy in the classroom. However, just like if a child asks a teacher what their religion is, teacher is allowed to respond. They have an opportunity.
Is a 10-year-old going to ask a teacher? Is a 9-year-old?
My son would, our kids are talking about.
Okay, but you know what? Does your child have anxiety issues?
No, and
No, wait, no, don't cut me off. This is very serious. I've been requesting this for a while. It is a community meeting. I am asking that. I am asking, let me finish.
I will give you some leeway with it.
I'm asking that you ask the teachers to not talk to the children. Fine if they want to talk to the high school kids, anybody below high school, it is not an issue on the board. It is the parents' responsibility.
I think 7th and 8th graders can be.
I don't care. I don't want it talked about. And I know a lot of parents do not want it talked about.
Can I just finish?
Sure.
Yeah, and they can respond.
Right.
You need to speak to your parents about the levy.
I just want to finish what I didn't quite get out everything I've been saying to the faculty. So that's the first piece. If they're asked, then they have the opportunity to respond, and I think that's okay. We're not proselytizing the levy with children. We shouldn't. The other piece is we need to consider is age appropriateness. Appropriateness for that conversation with these folks is much different than second graders, for example. That's something else to take into consideration. So those are the kind of the pieces that we have shared with our faculty, and so we're not promoting proselytizing the levy, but the other piece that I need to share with you is from a school law sense, and you get that freedom of speech issue for teachers.
when there is an issue that is of prime importance to the community, that the average person would say, there's an issue, and it doesn't have to be a school levy, it could be, something the mayor did, or something that everyone's talking about. There's a little more leeway for them, in terms of a legal sense, to have that conversation where it's age appropriate. But I certainly agree with you,
I mean,
age
because
appropriate.
even if they say it, you know what, if the levy doesn't pass, I mean, what is a child going to hear? Because I know if I tell my child just simply, you know what, you need to do this, or we're not going to go to the zoo today. They're just hearing what, we're not going to the zoo today.
But you know, but in a way, I need to prepare my 10-year-old.
Yes,
and he might not be able to
I know, I speak to my children, he didn't understand what a levy was, but all he keeps coming home and talking about now is, am I going to be able to play basketball still?
Mine's
Am I going to be able to?
So is
do-
mine.
Okay, well, you know what, I don't like it.
Well, I don't want it to be a secret, then what happens November 5th?
Then talk to
or
your
whatever it is,
children
then
about
they're-
it.
then they're gonna- Well, I think they need to be prepared.
We are all talking to our children about it, and they're here.
At my
That's
own
true.
pace.
Right, but we live in a community. We all are talking about it.
Even Dr. Jones is saying age appropriate, and it's not appropriate for a 10-year-old
Well, I
who
have to
doesn't.
personally disagree that it is appropriate.
Then what about the parents who
Okay,
have an issue?
Listen, this is a deeply personal
Can I
thing.
just finish my thought? I respect that, and I understand that. What I'm saying is, and I understand that maybe the way you handle your home works for you, and it's good. My home, we do things differently, and it's hard when you live in a community.
But what I'm saying is I've heard from a lot of people.
I understand.
Also, I'm not the only one.
I understand. And the thing that I'm concerned, and I think that we need to talk about as a community.
As a community, as adults.
Is our parents, because this is a difficult issue and it's not working and it's frustrating, are parents not voting for the levy because of that? Is that,
It could
that is
be.
my concern. Well, but that's what we need to talk about, because I am not trying
It
to.
very well could be,
Well,
because
wait,
they're,
let me finish.
Okay.
I'm not trying to affect your home, but I'm advice, my
It's not
issue.
going over well with many parents.
Okay, listen, I think
One
this is a
quick
deeply,
thing.
I think this is a deeply personal thing.
I'll see you guys in
Well, I just have 3 kids in 3 buildings in the district, and none of them, the only place they've heard about the levy is from me. And I even, because I've seen it on the webpage, that, teachers have been talking about it. So I asked all 3 of them. I have a Kimpton student, I have a Lakeview student, I have an Echo student. And they all were like, my teacher never brings it up. In fact, my Lakeview student said that it actually came up from one of the kids, and she shut it down. She just said, yes, we do have a levy coming up, and shut it
I
down.
give kudos to that teacher, because that's really what.
Well,
Angel,
So it is.
take us down a new path.
I think it's varying in individual classrooms. I did call Ms. O'Closs and the principal at Lakeview because my second grader at Indian Trail came home and said kids were crying in school because the teacher said there were going to be no more Cub Scouts and Girl Scouts. Second grade, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
No, I said, go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Too young. My kids don't need the stress, the financial burden of a parent. I told my kids, you let your dad and I worry about the financial part of it, you will play sports. Because it needs to be on a college application. If I have to get a 3rd shift job, you will play sports. I don't think second graders need to hear it.
But how are they going to play sports? There's not going to be a basketball program.
There's other basketball programs around.
Oh, they'll figure it out. I mean, there's
Church,
churches
other-
and stuff. My kids will play somewhere.
All these
Even-
kids from Stow aren't going to be able to play elsewhere. It's not
I'm
gonna-
not, if they have to pay to participate, I'm saying I will come up with money. I'm telling my children, you don't have to worry about that.
But Stow Parks and Rec program will be gone.
Okay, well, what I'm saying, if it increases the pay to participate, I'm telling my child they don't have to worry about it. Because they don't need the stress of it.
Is this an issue that affects the levy, though? I mean, why would you not vote for the levy because of something that a couple
I never
of
said
teachers have said?
I didn't know.
You said it just 5 minutes ago. You said people will not vote for the
I didn't
levy
say it.
because of this particular situation.
It is one of many that we're hearing.
So my question is, not voting for a levy because of a couple of things that a teacher said,
It's not just.
where a teacher
Tom, you're next.
can be dealt with on a different level about some of the things
I've
that
never
they're
heard
saying.
anybody say they're not voting because of that.
No.
Wait, I thought you said there were a lot of
I said it was
what you said.
Okay, I said that is one of the issues that people have said. They don't like their children hearing this stuff.
But I guess everybody has an opinion that we don't mind our kids hearing about it. So, that's an opinion. I guess that shouldn't be a reason, is what,
But if a little girl is sitting at school crying because she just found out her Girl Scouts are not going to continue, who's there to comfort her? I mean, maybe her parents they have time to talk to her about it. That's the only point I'm making. Who's there to comfort your baby? I'm not there to comfort my child when he hears that there's going to be no sports. I want to do that. I don't want a teacher comforting my child. That's not her job. And it's not her job to tell my kid they're not playing football or going to Girl Scouts.
Okay.
It's my job. And I want to be there to comfort them. And I want to answer
Angel.
their questions. Unless they're talking about government, that levy better not come up.
Angel, really,
What?
it's a very personal issue with you and the administration, Dr. Jones. If there's an issue in your child's school with it, I would think that's probably something you guys need to discuss.
Which is what I raised my hand to say. Mr. Lacoste handled it.
Okay, great.
I was
Dom.
Just being like the third person party here listening to this, I understand that there's a lot of anger towards teachers who have been, I guess you could say, they're not trying to scare your child, but it's coming off that way. And
Well, their superiors are telling them to talk to the children.
Free lines. Whatever the issue.
That's kind of what Mr. Lacoste was getting at today.
Whatever the issue, whoever is telling whoever about this, the thing, we can't sit here and argue about it and go back and forth because this is not going to solve it. What we need to do, if you're concerned with what the teacher's saying, then you should email a teacher or you should go talk to a teacher. You can talk to the superintendent about it, but the teacher will probably listen to you more because you are the parent.
Right.
And they are the ones that need this levy passed. Dr. Jones, yes, he needs it, but he's not the person who's going to be heavily affected by this. The teachers are the ones and the students are the ones. And if the teachers hear personal feedback, they're going to respond to that. Now, I do agree that teachers shouldn't be talking about this on a level to children who don't have the fully developed minds yet. But you can't make it a uniform thing. You have to go to the teacher and you have to speak to them in a calm, sensible manner.
We have just a few minutes left. Dr. Jones.
I just want to throw something for people to think about. I was a high school principal for a long time, and I would get phone calls about what a teacher said. And then when you get down to really figuring out what happened, there's different things. Standing up in front of the children saying, "Look, this levy doesn't pass. You're not doing this. You're not doing Girl Scouts. You're not doing that." That's one thing. But when a second grade girl says, "My sister was in Girl Scouts 2 years ago, and they did the thing at Kent State, and are we going to do that, Mrs. Smith?" And Mrs. Smith says, "Well, I don't want to break this child." Well, if we get the funding or the levy, and then what is that? Then the conversations, and I'm not saying that's what happened, but I'm just saying they're two vastly different things that when it gets back home and a child is really upset because after the conversation they figure out, oh boy, that I may not get the same opportunity as my sister, and then then the parents got to deal with that at home, and they're upset. So it's tough to get at exactly how that conversation began and how it evolved and the purpose behind it. It could have been an innocent question that evolved into that, or if they're trying to, again, if it was the first approach that I suggested, then that's what we really need to address.
Have you ever told the teachers, any staff meeting, that they must talk to their children about the levy?
Absolutely not.
Thank you.
Okay. It is right. So you have a question?
Well, yeah, okay, I got a question. Did you, by chance, talk to the staff at Echo Hills about not going forward with IB until after the levy?
Another non-levy related.
No, I'm not a non-levy person.
I'm saying
You
this
guys
is a
have all been-
non-levy related issue.
IB
We're here to
is
talk about the
non-levy?
levy.
This is what I'm getting at, that's what I want to know. Did you say that?
What I said to the staff at Echo Hills, we're not doing anything anywhere until the levy is.
So it's no longer going on at Indian Trail right now? Yes, it is. You just asked Echo Hills. But you just said that it's not going on.
What he means is currently, there aren't any programs of professional development that our teachers are attending that we will be paying for now and until November 8th. There's nothing going on that,
As far as
that
training.
will be any expenses out of the budget for anything.
Or
Okay.
IB. Or IB.
Okay, now, from what I understand, maybe you might be able to help on this, because I'm not sure what part of Kent State you're on.
I'm the Dean of College Education.
Okay, so do you know about the grant that has been applied for Kent State to go with the internet, the IB?
It's not a grant, we applied to be the first university in the country to be certified, have our early childhood program be certified as IB approved.
So it's just for the early childhood?
It's early first, we're probably going for middle next.
Okay, because I'm under the impression that the district's going IB.
No,
Why? It was stated at a meeting today.
it's only at 2 schools because they're Title I.
Okay. Are you at Echo?
I'm at Indian Trail and I am proud
This was-
to have IB.
Good.
Okay.
Was it
All right.
stated at Echo Hills? It's
What's
going- that this IB is going to go?
Where do you get
Not
that
by me.
information from?
Not by me.
That-
It's coming from staff.
Our plan is to implement the International Backbone Program in 2 elementary buildings, Echo Hills, Indian Trail. That's it. Here.
And no more at all.
Okay.
Positively no.
Absolutely not.
It is a little after 8. I would like to take just a quick minute.
You're doing good.
We have 3 school board candidates
Well,
here.
you're kind
2
of,
incumbents and 1,
What?
2 incumbents.
you just kind of, did I do that? I just said, yeah, you did the ball.
Okay. All right. Just very quickly, we have 2 incumbent school board candidates here. We have one person trying for it, Fred Bonacci. If they would have a minute, I'd just like to ask them one question. How is this levy important to you guys? Karen Powers?
Sure.
You go first.
It's important to me because back in 2001, when we had all those severe cuts, my children were young and in school. And I know how hard that was on them and on us as a family. It's no fun for anybody. This community deserves much better than that because we do have an excellent school system. And it's very important to me that all the children now and in the years to come have all the same opportunities that these guys have had so that they can continue to be successful the rest of their lives.
Fred Bonacci, introduce yourself.
I'm Fred Bonacci. I'm running for the school board also. I've lived in Stow for 45 years. I can probably say I graduated from Stow High School in 1976, so I'm giving you my age. I went to work, and I'm proud. It prepared me for college in my career. I had 2 children that just graduated 2007, 2010. And Stowe Schools, I'm very proud of it. I'm very proud of the city. I'm going to do everything I can to continue to give the education to all the kids coming up that my children were able to receive. It was wonderful. And I've been in this town so long. I've seen when levies fail. I've seen when busing gets cut out of grade schools. You won't be anywhere near that school. Traffic's atrocious. The morale, the whole city, it just tears up. The schools are the backbone of this town. I mean, if anyone tells you that this failure of the levy doesn't affect your home value,
Affects everybody.
it affects everybody, your lives, everything, your value, your homes, personal life. It's terrible. I've been through it twice. The strike way back when I was at work. It's just terrible. So it is very important. We need this. People need to separate ID, all the other issues. I don't like this school board member, I don't like the superintendent, don't like Fred Bonacci. Separate all that, think about the kids with this levy. That's what people got, they tend to say, I don't like ID, I'm not voting for levy. ID has nothing to do with the levy right now. We need these funds, and we'll deal with all that after the levy. And if you don't like what things are, then you have an opportunity. So I think we just got to separate that, and let's get this levy passed.
I've been in a lot of these community meetings and been on some of the levy committees and so forth and so on it. And it's the one thing that's hard, please understand, I have a 40-year-old son, and a grandson, that went through the entire Stow school system. I currently have a 15-year-old daughter going through the Stow school system. So am I proud of Stow? I could have sent them to any other school, but we elected to send them to Stow. The point I'm trying to make is, we've heard now about basketball, we've heard about football, we've heard about drama, we've heard about Japanese, we've heard about busing, we've heard about, everybody is focused on something that affects them. And maybe it's because I'm on a school board, I look at it a little differently. I have to look at the whole package because the decisions that I make are affecting a 15-year-old girl, Madison, my daughter. It's affecting my daughter, okay? Yeah, I can take her to school in the morning. Do I like it? I love it. But that's not the point of the, no, I really do. That's the joy. I'm up at 4 o'clock in the morning. But anyway, the point I guess I'm trying to make is, the levy is about the children in our school district in this community. Everything else that everybody talks about is one little part of it. If you want your community to excel and have people that want to move into this community because they produce kids like we're seeing right here, we need the levy.
Yes.
If you want your own personal child to excel, period, not because of basketball, Japanese, if you want your own personal child to excel, pass the levy. So let's take off our blinders and start looking at what the levy is going to do.
Final thought before we go is I know there are undoubtedly still some questions and some obstacles that are faced by people you know, maybe even yourselves, are voting for the levy. The communications don't stop tonight. There are emails and there are telephone numbers for all the people involved here. I know that they'll be glad to take your phone call, to answer your email. I mean, I would not expect it immediately, but you will get a response from them. They will address the issues that you have. They'll try anyway. I don't know that they have all the answers. I don't know that anyone does. Yeah.
It's just life in general.
Life in general, that's right, yeah. What is the meaning of life? Why are we here? But anyway, I hope that you'll encourage anyone that does have questions to make that phone call, send that email, get the answers you want, and remember, November 8th is a very, very important day for this community. If there isn't anything else, I think it might hang around for a few minutes if you have some other questions that you want to talk about. We can do that. We really need to adjourn the meeting. And the boys, or the guys back here are going to help me clean up the tables and chairs, or the chairs here. If you guys wouldn't mind just stepping aside while we do that. Okay?
Can I say one final thing? I know, it's not gonna be long, I promise. I mean, I know we don't pay taxes and things, and we really aren't fluent yet. Our parents do, but we're not really fluent yet.